Welcome back to Beyond the Singularity, where we speculate, percolate, and exasperate all things in the science fiction genre. I'm your host Kyle Culver, gaming as Diabetic Gamer, and you are listening to Episode 5. While I've been busy making other videos, I had the chance to come back to putting some interviews together for a series that I'm doing called Post-Waking Titan. In today's episode, I am going way back into December of last year, right before the 1.3 Atlas Rises update to No Man's Sky, and I'm talking with avid ARG player and moderator Codex. While Codex hasn't played much of No Man's Sky, she has been very active in the creation of ARGs as a tester for Allison Smith. We talk about her active moderating and alpha testing with Allison Smith, the Game Detectives Discord, the Waking Titan Twitch, and other things, and how she got involved with Waking Titan. She brought some insight to how ARGs work. We talk about Bob, or Robert, who is an actual intern with Allison Smith, and where the name for the hamster Noodles came from. It's a really interesting story. Now I have to give a disclaimer, because this is one of the first interviews I've ever done, and I was even debating whether to upload this or not. But it wouldn't be fair to Codex, who was kind enough to give me her time, and to chat with me and share a few interesting tidbits and stories from Season 1 of Waking Titan. But you gotta start somewhere, right?
So I'm a moderator for the Allison Smith Discord and forums. And I started doing that back in January when there was sort of a new call for moderators. And then partway through Waking Titan, the moderators over at Game Detectives were like, hey, do you want to be a cool kid? So obviously, yes. So because I sort of sit in that sort of bridge role between Allison Smith and Game Detectives from a social standpoint, it sort of made sense for me to be one of the people who also moderated the Twitch chat during Waking Titan.
Totally.
Which was a time and a half.
I can imagine. Did you take shifts as well? Because I know one of the puppet masters mentioned that.
Yeah, well, there's only 5 of them, so.
There's only 5 of them?
Yeah.
That were doing the entire ARG?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
I think there's more people who are involved at Allison Smith on their other projects, but there's only 5 that were doing Waking Titan, I believe.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot.
And so if you came on in January, did anybody else outside of Allison Smith come on as moderators?
So I became a mod for Allison Smith in January.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a few of us, I think there was 5 or 6 of us, but I'm the only one. I think Blade was a little bit involved with Waking Titan, and Nikel was as well. But I'm one of the few that is sort of active in both communities.
You are definitely active, that's for sure.
Yeah, a little bit of a problem sometimes, but yeah.
Do you ever find that getting in the way of work, or is that work?
Well, I work retail, and I'm a full-time student, which it's summer right now, so I've got some free time. When September starts, I'll have less free time.
As with a bunch of other people, I'm sure.
Yeah. Summertime is a good time for game.
Yeah. So moderating Allison Smith first, and then jumping into the Game Detectives. Mm-hmm. What did they ask you to do? What was your primary reason for jumping into that? What did you end up doing for that?
So I initially offered because I could see Waking Titan was getting a little bit overwhelming for the mod team they had.
Okay.
And so I offered well before I actually became a moderator there. And so I've basically just been, eyes and ears, making sure that nobody's spamming or being a jerk. It's the same thing all the other moderators do.
Right, typical stuff.
Yeah, it's just we haven't had something quite this large since Sombra.
And Sombra is?
So there was an ARG for Overwatch, which attracted a lot of people to Game Detectives, and this was a little bit before my time. I mean, I was aware of it and I popped in from time to time, but I wasn't a mod.
Okay.
And so it wasn't really my problem.
Yeah.
But things can get overwhelming if there's a lot more people than there are. Like, if there's a lot of new people who don't quite understand how a server works and don't understand the culture around things, there could be clashes.
I have to admit, jumping into this, I wasn't quite aware how Discord even functioned. Like, I used it to chat with other friends while playing PUBG, but I'd only been doing that for a few weeks. And then, this blows up because I'm such a fan of No Man's Sky, and people were hinting at Waking Titan. And so I was like, well, I got to get all the information I can get. So why not join the Discord? So I quickly began to understand how crazy and chaotic it can get sometimes.
It can definitely get a little bit out of hand because people get excited, and it's just...
Oh, totally.
It is what it is, and they have every right to be excited. It's exciting.
Did Allison Smith reach out to you specifically?
Yes, in a way. So I helped alpha test some of the mechanics for the glyph puzzles before Waking Titan was actually launched, and myself and other people who tested that mechanic were given the link and were like, hey, here's a link to a tweet from ARGnet. Like, if you were to happen to drop this somewhere, we wouldn't be mad. Yeah, it was the initial sort of... There wasn't really a trailhead for Waking Titan. It was more like, we're going to send a link to this website directly to the people who monitor ARGs, which is fine. You don't always need like a super obscure trailhead. It's kind of more fun to just have it out in the open.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, there's a lot of games. It's not like that.
Have there been any previous ARGs that have been completely obscured?
Oh yeah.
To start out with,
most of the time, a trailhead isn't going to be something that just drops in your lap. It's
something you gotta like search for.
Yeah.
And would you say it normally starts in the game itself?
So ARGs aren't necessarily going to be associated with video games. That being said, the ones that are associated with video games, oftentimes, you'll find the initial lead in the game itself.
Okay.
Really, when you're looking for trailheads, you just kind of have to look for stuff that makes you go, that's odd. I wonder why that is that. And that's why we're so prone to rabbit holes in the ARG community.
I know I follow a certain YouTuber gamer who is very active in Battlefield 1, and
oh god, their Easter eggs are nuts.
Yeah, has been jumping down those rabbit holes.
Oh my god. I mean, the guys who do that, they are great, and they blow my mind consistently. It's like,
I mean, if that blows your mind, I don't even want to jump into it because the Waking Titan ARG blew my mind. That's kind of crazy.
The Battlefield 1 Easter eggs are obscure, to say the least. A lot of them.
Most of the time, you gotta wonder, how do people, what are you doing to find this?
Well, they know that there's something there because there's a history. It's like, oh, they always hide Easter eggs in here, so you just look and you look and you look until you find something to latch onto.
I don't think I'm too familiar with the history of those kind of Easter eggs.
Yeah, I think it's the developer is just known for putting Easter eggs in games. I'm not sure.
I don't want to... I feel like this is crazy, but I think I remember seeing something about Easter eggs in E.T., like the old, what was it, Atari game?
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. Although, isn't there like a landfill full of them? Is it like sold so poorly? There's like literally a landfill of this game.
It's confirmed, yes. There's even a documentary about it. I may have watched it a few times.
A few times? Why would you watch a documentary more than once?
I'm crazy about documentaries. Okay, the biggest reason, I'm not going to lie, I have terrible memory.
Okay, that's fair.
So repetition is kind of my thing.
Yeah, whatever works. Lists are my thing.
Lists work too, because
I've got like sticky notes all behind my computer monitor.
I have to start that at some point.
It's a good idea.
going back to moderating,
Right.
you are not a moderator on eTark, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, but you are active on there.
Semi-active. I have a hard time with the format of the forums.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's
That's
just different than what I'm used to, and it's also just not at all like where I thrive. I do
yeah.
best in like real time. I'm quick.
Discord. I am.
Discord is good. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have to, or did you have to at some point direct the players a certain way,
Oh
or
no,
have a
no, no.
no?
I'm not an NPC.
Right. All right. Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure where that line would be.
Yeah. So there's people have this habit of thinking that I'm part of some larger narrative, and I think it's just because I sort of like tend to
You
act
know what's up.
mysterious for the sake of it, and I know what's up. I tend to have more information than the typical person because I'm a data hoarder.
Okay.
um,
It's not always a bad thing.
oh no, definitely not. But no, I not playing a role in this game. I genuinely like. Sure, I got linked to it because I was alpha testing a thing, but I have been along for the ride from the start. Like I wasn't really that into it during phase 1, but phases 2 and 3 kind of really caught my
Oh my
interest a
gosh.
lot more.
And they went so fast too. Like phase 1
Yeah,
took its time. Phase 2 kind of happened, and then phase 3 was like out in a blink.
yeah, it was like a day.
Was your primary role just to weed out the trolls?
Literally, the only thing we were meant to be doing is just taking out abusive stuff and making
Right.
sure that Twitch wasn't like toxic.
That's
Like if
good.
you want to, spam, hamster emoji, go for it. Like I'm fine with it. But
What did you think about that?
with the hamster, it's great.
Noodles.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Do you know the origin of the name Noodles?
Yeah.
Tell it to me. What is it?
So early on in the ARG, we found a bunch of related websites by looking at their certificates. I think it was the SSL certificates. They managed to look it up through Cloudflare and just when they'd been registered. And so we found a bunch of related stuff because they were all like hosted together, I guess. I don't know. But one of the things in this list was this website for a noodle shop in like I feel like it was Taiwan. It was like some Asian country. It was called Mr. Noodles. And so all the other websites, we visited them and it's like, you're not ready for this yet. And some of them had cached information that we sort of like pulled out and we shouldn't have had that early. But, you know,
Data miners.
yeah, it was a thing. But then Mr. Noodle's site, it just said, it's under construction. And so Priathic, God bless their soul, found a way to like construct a website locally so that they could access the actual login for this site to like make a rewards account or whatever and signed up
For Mr. Noodles.
for Mr. Noodles.
Oh my gosh.
They were like so convinced it was part of the ARG. Like they spent 2 days, 3 days putting this together and it was literally just a noodle shop. Like it was nothing.
Wow. I think I remember seeing something like that for an address in the first phase, like
Oh, was
really
that the
early
Dropbox
on.
video or?
Maybe no, that was part of the template
Yeah.
from one of the websites or all of them. I don't know. That was funny though.
Yeah, I think it was the Echo website.
We'll go through my information and do another cache from my memory.
Yeah, but that's like it's a pitfall that a lot of ARG players can fall into is this idea that we need more information, we need to track it down. Like, no, that's literally nothing. Like,
Yeah, I
chill.
gotta say, if I could, I would totally do the same thing. I'm not familiar with code or HTML or CSS or anything like that.
What was really fun was when they had an unhashed cookie on the Waking Titan console website, and so somebody like edited the cookie to get further on the console than they should have been able to.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Just little things like that. It wasn't anything major that was leaked. Alison Smith is really good about not putting up puzzles until they're ready to go live.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So the only information that you really could get was like, oh, like this is where more things will be eventually when they're here.
Right, and we did get a lot of that. Even Matt even created a bot to throw out
Keep an eye on
updates.
things.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Would you say? Well, I mean, that was your opinion right there. It was cool.
Yeah, that's my opinion. It's cool. I mean, probably not what Allison Smith was initially expecting, and it makes things a little harder to manage because you can press publish once, and that's your shot because everyone will know right away. But
God, that just pushes in further just how good they are and making sure it's all right. Now they did make a few mistakes.
Yeah.
And they poked at it in the ARG several times. One of them being the interns reference.
Yeah. Which is literal. They have literal interns. Like Bob.
Okay.
Bob's an intern. He's a good dude. I like him.
And I was told that's his real name.
Robert.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
The whole thing's connected to No Man's Sky, and they've been dropping hints inside the game with the communication stations and whatnot. Do you play the game?
I tried. My computer doesn't like it.
Oh, what a bummer.
I have to upgrade anyway, so...
Was it something you knew that was going to be part of the ARG and alpha testing?
So, Anashel was very careful not to say what game it was for. He did say it was for a video game. That being said, I'm maybe a little cleverer than he gave me credit for because I knew right away. Mostly because at one point he was screen sharing and it auto-completed to something about No Man's Sky.
Auto-completed.
Yeah. So, I think I was the only one in the alpha testing group who picked up on that, but we didn't really discuss it.
Okay. Rightfully so.
Yeah. He was making it very clear that he wasn't going to tell us what the game was. I wasn't going to tell him I knew.
All right. Yeah, that's so cool to know now you were part of that, and then as it developed, you were like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I'm part of this.
I kind of like to know things ahead of time.
Okay, I can see that now. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't put two and two together. Were there any other funny moments or kind of something that sticks out to you?
I mean, I really liked Emily's bit about "It's time, Bob" with the stream. Oh my god! But we actually had a side server of people who had data mined out information or whatever, and they were basically just doing that on the side to let Allison Swift know if something had gone up that maybe shouldn't have. And so they gave us access to a testing stream to make sure that the WebSocket Twitch setup for the Twitch plays Hamster Maze worked.
That was incredible, by the way.
Oh, it was so cool. I was surprised it worked at that volume. It was awesome. It's a lot. But at one point, we had randoms who would come into the stream because they listed it under game development, and there's not a lot of streams listed there. And at one point on one of the screens, they put up, do you like Waking Titan? And we're all like, take that down right now. What if somebody sees it and makes the connection? But it was a good time, all in all. I like some of the silly moments in the stream.
Good old Bob. The memes are real.
He's such a good dude. I'm so glad that he's a meme now.
Did you ever get to talk to any of these players? Or, no, I'm sorry, not players, NPCs.
I mean, I've spoken with Bob for Allison Smith stuff because he's, an intern and he's around doing intern stuff.
Right. Gotta get them coffee and donuts.
Yeah, very important. No, he's a good dude. He's very communicative, which is good in an intern.
Well, I mean, he seems very communicative because Emily wants him there, so he can stick around.
Yeah, well, it's nice. Sometimes people just don't want to engage, but he's so into engaging. It's so funny.
How many other interns do they have?
I don't know right now. I only know him because he likes to engage.
Okay. Very nice. coming right out of phase 3 from the Twitch stream and then getting the screen grabs of the portal and the new ship, what was your takeaway from the whole thing? Like, you realized this is what it's all about, this is what you were part of. What did you think?
It was sort of bittersweet, because it had been like a wild ride, and now it's like, oh, it's over. But at the same time, there's all these unanswered questions, and like the story is just starting to be written. So how can it be over? But I'm pretty confident that the story will continue in some way. Not, the phases.
Going along with it, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you're sticking around for the long haul.
You guys aren't losing me.
Okay, good.
It's hard to shake me.
Because I'll probably call you again for another interview after whatever the next thing is.
Yeah.
Do you know how long they said they wanted this thing to go?
No.
Okay.
I don't think the Alison Smith side of things is continuing. I'm not sure exactly what's going on that front, but I think as the story continues, like Anna Shell told us, it's not a linear story. It's, organic and developing. I don't know if you saw, he did a little bit of informal Q&A with a couple of different Discord servers.
I saw a little bit of it, Reddit.
Yeah. So it's very much not over, but the part that we were doing is.
Right. And that was the exciting part. Who knows what's going to happen next? Even more exciting.
Emily knows.
Emily knows. What's your take on her character? That's interesting. She comes out as a forum moderator, and then suddenly, oh my god, she's part of a computer system.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think from the get-go, setting her up as this sort of like obviously an NPC but friendly face that people could, talk to.
Whenever somebody says so, and obviously an NPC, I always feel so oblivious because I had no idea.
You poor thing. You poor thing.
Like at first, when the site started directing, like the middle glyph started directing towards Etark, I was like, oh, well, that's nice, that's cool. And then I saw her first video log, and she was like, okay, guys, let's figure this out. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess this weird traffic is going to someone who is just kind of there. Yep. Just created forums. I didn't really put 2 and 2 together until much later.
Yeah.
I even sent her a message on eTark asking her, hey, I'm doing this wrap-up video thing. Can I do an interview with you? And of course, this was like, a couple weeks into it for myself. And she responds with, I'll let you know how I feel later. And it's like, oh, okay. That's a weird answer, but okay. And now I'm like, yeah, of course it's a weird answer.
Yeah, because she's, an AI in a cloud of satellites.
She can't answer that.
I think it was a good way to set up a community by having someone already there, already present, sort of building that sort of culture around it and having sort of the encouragement to be positive and be constructive, which that's one thing I do like the discourse forums for, is it's very much focused on group moderation and sort of the community being involved in their own decisions. It's not something that needs a lot of oversight. So, and
that's great. Especially for the ARG, it's such a good move to make because you have a centralized hub for literally everything. And now it is, because it's turning into the CSD forums. What do you think about that, the Citizen Science Division?
I think it suits you guys.
Did you sign up for the Atlas Pass, the level 4? Yeah, of course. Of course. Who didn't?
How can I not?
Right?
Everyone did.
Are you a memorabilia type of person?
Less memorabilia and more like hoarding.
Okay.
I've got a lot of stuff.
Okay, well, I
have a lot of dog pins.
Just like pins of dogs?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Everybody has their collections. I have movie tickets, so.
That works.
Oh, the 1.3 patch, the Atlas Rises,
Yes.
which apparently is going to be happening either today or tomorrow, as far as patch notes. Some behind the scenes things you were thinking of.
Well, it's more just like it's not quite like behind the scenes stuff. It's more like stuff you would know if you knew Allison Smith. But yeah, a lot of the actually, this is a cool behind the scenes thing. So a lot of the puzzles and whatnot in phase 1 were puzzles and stuff that I had seen before in the Black Watchman. They were concepts that had been used or attempted to be used in live events that we had run, or they had run for the Black Watchman, but on a much larger scale.
And the Black Watchman is?
Black Watchman is sort of how I became involved with Allison Smith. It's a permanent alternate reality game where they've got like a game on Steam and you can solve all these puzzles at any point in time. There's a plot line that goes through. There's like 2 seasons, 2 DLCs, gearing up for season 3. It's exciting.
So it's another ARG.
Yes, it's another ARG, but it's more like a puzzle game that has ARG elements.
Okay, yeah.
It's hard to explain. It's hard to put in a box.
It is. You know, I try to explain this to my friends, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, that sounds interesting.
That sounds nice, honey."
and then of course I'm like, "Okay, just watch my first episode. You'll get it. You'll understand it."
The cipher wheels, we saw those in the first live event that I ever did with the Black Watchman, which was Halloween of 2015. They did a similar like code wheel concept, which it was definitely a nostalgia trip for me to see them again.
Yeah. I know a lot of people were crazy about it.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. And then with we did the same exact thing, more or less, with unlocking an image block by block, except you guys did it like in 20 minutes instead of, a week.
Was that what they were expecting? A week?
No. I'm sure not. Because there's so many.
But much longer, obviously.
Yeah, I was talking to Anna Show when the first, what did they call it? I don't know. It was the boot sector puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to him about that, and he was like, "Oh, if you like look over there, you'll get a little bit of deja vu." And I looked over, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's like my first live event." And he's like, "Yeah, they got it done in like 40 minutes." It's like not at all, like, because with the live event I did, they had to send out a second round of codes because there were a lot of inactive emails or whatever, and so there wasn't enough coverage.
Okay. Yeah, I've always wondered sort of the structure behind some of these puzzles, because I imagine a lot of people sign up for this stuff, and then a good portion of them just kind of leave it inert. And they just like stop.
Yeah, they get, involved with other stuff. They stop doing it. It happens. Yeah. A lot of times, sort of the best way to deal with that is to be able to identify if someone is inactive. But then if they want to become active again, it's like, well, you haven't been getting the emails, and it becomes a challenge. So sometimes it's better to just assume they're active, and then if we need more participation, we get more people. I think usually they break things up into about 5 parts at this point, rather than attempting the whole image grid thing with like 128 or whatever.
Yeah. Did you have any correlation with Hello Games, or is this strictly Allison Smith?
Yeah, I have no contact with them. Never met them. I hear they're nice folks.
I hear they're nice too. Maybe one of these days we'll have an interview or something.
No. Trap one of them in a corner and be like talking to this camera.
Tell us everything you know.
Tell me everything.
Any other behind the scenes thoughts?
Obviously, with all the typos, Allison Smith is primarily a French-speaking company. So Anna Shell speaks a lot of French, like mostly French. His wife Natalie she speaks almost only French. She's got pretty decent English, but anytime I've ever seeing her talking to people, it's French. Which I found interesting because there's this active French No Man's Sky community that I knew nothing about until I did a quick Google search. And then they showed up in the Twitch chat, and I was like, huh, what a coinky dink.
It's crazy how far-reaching this thing is.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Do you speak to Anishel mainly through IM? Or
yeah, a little bit
whatever,
of that.
or...
We'll email, IM. Sometimes we'll have like voice chats or whatever, depending on what we're talking about.
Yeah, because you mentioned doing a screen share before.
Yeah, so for the alpha testing, he was just showing us like the website and all that, and like making sure that we were seeing the same thing he was.
Yeah, okay. That's so cool. It's so good to... I mean, you kind of have to be that detailed, right?
Yeah.
With something this big.
Yeah.
As far as size, how big is Waking Titan compared to all the previous and active ARGs that they're doing?
It's huge.
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Waking Titan, I think, was the only like big like ARG that they were working on, and then they're mostly working on other games because they've got a hacking sim game that they're working on that's going into beta testing soon. There's Black Watchman, which is its own can of worms. They were doing something with Funcom for their Secret World Legends launch, which was cool. So, but it's all been sort of smaller stuff. Obviously, Night Team 4 is not small, but Waking Titan is a pretty big project.
I'm still trying to grasp the amount of people that they have to deal with, and like how specific some of these tasks are.
Well, the specificity acts as almost like a filtering mechanism where you don't get, I mean, you still do get over 1,000 submissions, but if it becomes something more specific, then you don't have to sort through, 20,000 submissions.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this interview.
All right.
Thank you so much again, Codex, for your time.
You're so very welcome. Sorry.
And hopefully we didn't wake anybody up.
Probably.
Well, they can deal with it.
Yeah.
A huge thanks to Codex for giving me some of her time to chat about an industry I was not familiar with at all before Waking Titan. Since this interview, the 1.3 Atlas Rises update came out, and at the release of this episode, we are anticipating very highly Season 2 to kick off very, very soon. For more information on Waking Titan, ARGs, and everything else, check out the info in this post. The music in this episode was made and provided by Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. You can find his tracks on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, everywhere. And until next time, we'll see you beyond the Singularity, travelers.